there's genocide, but there's also an ecocide, environmental catastrophe that's destroying our country. And of course, all of these things, settler colonialism is associated with climate change, associated with pollution, associated with habitat destruction, and so on. I used to work here at Yale University for 6 years, since 1999 and till 2005, and then I worked at private laboratories for two and a half years, and then I headed back home in 2008, and Jesse followed me very quickly. This is Jesse, comforting me and keeping me, and sorry she's not here. She wanted to be here, but we have some business to tend to in Florida with our son, so I'll be very brief because I do want to leave a lot of time for question and answer. Primarily, I want to just update you on the current situation. Many of you have heard me speak before. So the first part is just very quick overview of what we are talking about. Palestine, of course, is this area. Oh, good, let's have dancing part. Who said, I don't want to be in a revolution where I'm not allowed to dance. So anyways, it's a land bridge between Africa and Eurasia, and that's where humans migrated out of Africa to the rest of the world. So actually your ancestors are all Palestinian, whether you wanted that or not, I'm not sure. Yeah, in the demonstration they say in our thousands and our millions we're all Palestinians, right? So this is true actually in some sense also, except unless you are African, of course you stayed in Africa. But this land, the Holy Land if you want to call it, or the land of Canaan, is part of the Fertile Crescent, at least the western part of the Fertile Crescent, where humans first developed agriculture, where we first domesticated plants and animals, plants like olive trees, wheat, barley, lentils, chickpeas, hummus, I'm sure you had hummus, all of this. And the people of the land, by and large, from a genetic standpoint, I used to be medical geneticist, trace their ancestry for thousands of years. If you take bones of people there 50,000 years ago and you analyze the DNA, you find similarities in the DNA of current day Palestinians. That, including me. That doesn't mean that there was no mix-up of some populations, and certainly Palestine was subjected to evolution of religions and cultures that came and went, but largely the stock, 99.8%, remained indigenous Palestinians. But we Palestinians consider anybody who comes into the country peacefully, doesn't want to kick us out, they're welcome to become citizens of the country, and indigenous people, of course. So this picture from 1932 shows the diversity of cultures and backgrounds and religions. These people, religious and secular leaders, got together to object to the Balfour Declaration and the idea of a Jewish state in Palestine. Why would they object to that? Well, the answer is in the picture. They like the diversity of people there. Christian, Muslim, Jews, Baha'i, everybody, Jews, and Christians of various denominations, etc. If there is a message I want you to take home from my talk, and my major advisor used to tell me, tell them the message and repeat it 2 or 3 times so that they remember it. If somebody wakes them up at 2 in the morning and asks you what I talked about, here's the message. That there's human diversity and there's biological diversity, and those are 2 good things. Good things. That colonialists, including Zionists, are against both, against human diversity and against biological diversity. This is the take-home message. Now you can go home, some of you. But anyway, Palestine has been a healthy country living in harmony with nature and people among each other for thousands of years. We had very little conflict, less than most countries on earth, by the way. which may surprise many of you thinking that Western Asia, the Middle East as they call it here, colonial terminology by the way, Middle East, but it's okay, now it's common usage. So, no, we have not been fighting each other. In fact, if you take away this conflict, we'll have to go back to the Crusaders, another conflict that came to us from outside, also from Europe. Europe seems to export these problems, but that's another story. But anyway, that's between the Crusaders and this conflict. What happened? Peace, there's no problems. Now, what is this conflict? This conflict is very clear. It was the idea of taking a country that's multi-ethnic, multicultural, multi-religious, and even multilingual. Before 1948, 44 languages were spoken in Palestine. Take such a pluralistic country and make it the Jewish state of Israel. It's as simple as an idea as that. It sounds easy, but what are you going to do with the 97% of the population who's not Jewish? So that's the conundrum, if you want, the problem that we faced. And indeed, there was ethnic cleansing of Palestine. So you can see on the map on the right, the Palestinian villages and towns that were depopulated in 1948, 49, and 50, and continuing to this day now. Gaza is being ethnically cleansed as we speak, and not only ethnically cleansed, but also genocided, verb. Over 300,000 estimate of people killed in Gaza, and about the same number outside of Gaza now, 300,000. So roughly Gaza is reduced by about 1/3 of the population, and it's an ongoing process. This is not unfamiliar to you here in North America, of course, because that's what happened precisely in this country, where the land was shrunk after, quote-unquote, the Europeans discovered it, i.e. discovered this natural resource that they could steal and whatever. This is what they call displacement settler colonialism. And displacement settler colonialism has many ramifications. This is one of the ramifications. Over 300,000 of us have been killed. Actually more than 1 million have been injured. I should update the slide. And over 1 million who have been imprisoned and detained. Many of you here are old friends. Remember from 2001 when we brought Hayam Sayed from Gaza here because Yale Eye Center and others, Palestine Children Relief Fund, helped us bring a bunch of Palestinian children for treatment in the US. She was shot with a rubber-coated steel bullet when she was 7 years old in Gaza. In 2001, we brought her and fitted her with prosthetic eye. She went back to Gaza with her mother. So she's now approximately 30 years old, almost 30 years old. She has since had a son. You can see his picture on the right. Unfortunately, the prosthetic eye, she outgrew it, and there's no place in Gaza to get prosthetic eyes. But Stan remembers this girl because he was very involved in helping with her. And she really loved you, Stan. She even, in the WhatsApp messages that I correspond with her, she still remembers you. She's of course living with her family in a tent. A lot of their relatives were killed. Their house is completely gone. These pictures were taken in September 2023 before the attacks, the genocide of Gaza. She did send me other pictures, but I won't show them to you because it would be very depressing. But basically, they're emaciated, they're hungry, they don't have any food, etc. This is another girl we brought to Connecticut, and you all also must remember her. Her name is Marwa Sharif. She was shot by an Israeli bullet in 2002, I believe. where the bullet came from one end, lodged on the other end of her head, and it's delicate neurosurgery, so obviously there was no such services in the West Bank, so, or in our country, so we ended up bringing her here. A brilliant neurosurgeon took care of her. No, this was 2001. The reason I remember this is from the picture on the right, which is an Associated Press picture. As she was recovering, September 2001, 11 September, you know, and she was with her mother at the Berlin Mosque on September 12, praying for the victims of September 11. So she is a victim of state terrorism, praying for the victims of the terrorist attacks on 2001 in the US. And it made the front page of the Hartford Courant. I remember yesterday I showed this picture at the Berlin Mosque where it was taken, and I were pretty moved by this event. I have, of course, you know, the number of injured people are countless that I know. The number of people who were killed, I can count those. For example, 24 in the West Bank and more than that in Gaza. The ones in Gaza were essentially, most of them were killed in the past 13 months. This is one that I lost in the West Bank. His name is Basil Araj. He participated with me in nonviolent resistance, including the Palestine Freedom Riders, where this picture was taken, me and him and a few other activists. Anyways, he was hunted by the Palestinian Authority and the Israelis. The Palestinian Authority arrested him and tortured him in jail, and we made a campaign to release him. They did release him, but after that he went underground, and a few months later he was found with 26 bullets after 26 actually holes, not bullets, because a bullet can come from one end, go to the other end. But 26 holes in his body after the Israeli raid on his apartment in Ramallah. Our situation, of course, is very tragic in terms of the human killing and injuring. But an area that I will be talking about in the next 2 days at Yale, where the environmental group has invited me, environmental graduate students and others, I'll be speaking about the ecocide. So there's genocide, but there's also an ecocide, an environmental catastrophe that's destroying our country. And of course, all of these things, settler colonialism is associated with climate change, associated with pollution, associated with habitat destruction, and so on. Israel, for example, uprooted tens of millions of Palestinian native trees, both domesticated trees and wild trees, domesticated trees like olives, figs, and almonds, and so on, and wild trees like hawthorn, carobs, and stuff like that, oaks. And in place of that, they did plant one kind of tree, which is pine tree, European pine tree, Pinus halepensis. This European tree is a monolithic, basically, society, culture of trees, and it's very bad for biodiversity, but also bad in a dry climate. So, you know, they are susceptible to fires, so you can see the fires here in West Jerusalem. After they burned the pine trees, they exposed the terraces that our ancestors had built and grown other kinds of trees on. But this is a destruction of our environment that's ongoing to this day, actually. This is, for example, Jabal Abu Ghnaim, right next to my house, where they stole some land from my own relatives. It was a forested area before 1997, and then under Netanyahu's first government, confiscated and used for a Jewish-only colony in Palestine. This is what's going, you know, on all the time. There's also mega projects like the diversion of the water of the Jordan River Basin, where you can see Jordan River, even the Dead Sea, which is neither a sea nor dead, by the way, it's an inland lake, is dried up, and the Jordan Valley is becoming a desert. This is what the Jordan River used to flow like at 1,350 million cubic meters per year, and now it flows at only 20 million cubic meters per year. That's barely a stream. You could walk across it or jump across it. The reason they did that has nothing to do with needs of water by the Israeli colonial settlers. In fact, theft of resources is about destroying livelihood of the local people. And for example, in water, you hear of water shortage in our region, but really we don't have water shortage. Ramallah gets more water than London, but the difference is that for London, the water is used by the people of London, whereas in our case, the water coming from the sky goes into the aquifers. The aquifers are sucked by Israel to use for settlers and to throw away even half that water into the sea and so forth, because they want to deny us basically water. Why is Gaza besieged? Because of another natural resource called gas. Gas fields off of Gaza, which Israel is now exporting to Europe to replace Russian gas that used to float at, from Russia to Northern Europe through the Nord Stream pipelines, which mysteriously blew up. All the Western intelligence agencies cannot tell us who blew them up. But clearly, here's a beneficiary. Israel is now exporting our gas to Europe to replace Russian gas. That's part of the reason. There are other reasons for attacking Gaza. None of them has to do with Hamas or terrorism, so to speak. They have to do with geopolitical and other reasons. I'm happy to talk about that. But in terms of the ecocide, we actually did some studies. This study we just submitted for publication last month. It's about the destruction of tree cover in Gaza. We used remote sensing to map every tree field in Gaza. And you can see on the map on the right, month by month, the destruction of tree covers in Gaza. And on the graph on the bottom left-hand corner, you can see cumulative tree cover damage. So in North Gaza, it's over 90%, 94% or so. That's up to September when we completed the study and we submitted it in October or November, I think. Anyways, for 1 year, this is what had happened. South Gaza is catching up in terms of tree cover destruction. The same we see with greenhouses. And these greenhouses are being destroyed north to south. Same pattern we see, basically meticulously and intentionally being destroyed to deny Gaza its food supply. The same for destruction of wild areas. This is Wadi Gaza, which I studied before in terms of its nature, fauna and flora. Half of it is now destroyed. This is what it looked like before. Unfortunately, I don't have what it looks like after. I was able to get pictures of greenhouses and tree covers in some areas of Gaza, but I was not able to get any of our Gaza friends anywhere near this area of Wadi Gaza, because Israel declared the whole area military closed, shoot on site area. That's where they're just north of Wadi Gaza is where they are, have a 7-kilometer Netzarim area of split Gaza from north to south. The other thing is this impacts you here, okay? How does it impact you here? Wars are a climate change issue. For example, the Guardian newspaper did a study just on jet fuel produced by Israeli jets flying over Gaza. And this is how much 254,000 sorties, as they call them, or flights over Gaza produced the equivalent of 281,000 tons of CO2 equivalent. And this is just in the first 60 days, and we are now in month 13. In those first 60 days, actually, just from jet fuel alone, again, not bombs, not burning, not white phosphorus or anything, just jet fuels alone flying over Gaza produced more greenhouse gases than the Central African Republic produced in a whole year of industries, automobiles, everything else. So war is a climate chaos issue and its impacts us. So there's genocide, there's an ecocide, but there's also a medicide. And Phil, as a practicing physician, works on these issues. This is just statistics from the World Health Organization about what happened in Gaza in terms of the healthcare system. And yesterday at the Berlin Mosque, we heard also from Dr. Deborah, who went to Gaza in August and spent 1 month in Gaza treating patients there, and about the catastrophic situation of what happened in Gaza. There's also destruction of mosques and churches and museums. Over 300 mosques have been destroyed. Over 20 museums and collections were either pillaged or destroyed completely. Over three churches were destroyed, including the third oldest church in Palestine. You can call this whatever, but this one, destruction of universities. A young student spoke about the scholasticide. I actually wrote a research paper on this. If you're interested, I'd be happy to send it to you. It's also found on our website, palestinenature.org. And I lost many friends, colleagues at the universities there, professors and others. And you can see here, there's also, one could call it a veriticide, destruction of the truth, and the lies about this. Israelis should get into Guinness Book of World Records for the number of lies that they have told over the past 76 years, millions of lies. But anyways, they also silenced the truth, of course, by killing journalists. They killed 195 journalists. That's more than all the journalists that died in the Second World War. So then this is kind of set the stage for discussion on any subject that you want. But you saw the video about the museum, so I'm going to skip those slides, basically, of our activities at the museum, which are essentially a form of resistance to this. We welcome you if you want to volunteer with us. There's a lot of work to be done in these areas. You don't have to be a biologist to volunteer with us. We even have a group called Palestine Action for the Planet, which is part of Extinction Rebellion, and that works against climate change things. And we work a lot with women and farmers, and we have a community garden. You can volunteer there. That helps us in food sovereignty. We just picked our olive trees, and you can see those children very proud having helped us pick olives. This is the number of volunteers we had in 9 years, the first 9 years. I should update the slide. But anyways, from 45 countries, most of our labor is being done by volunteers, more than 60% of the labor. And my wife and I are full-time volunteers. We left the US, both of us had 6-figure incomes. We left that to go back to Palestine in 2008 for a 0-figure income. And that's the best choice I've made in my life. And Jessie would agree with me if she's here, but you can check with her. This is what volunteers do, so you would be welcome to volunteer with us if you want to come. We offer room and board. As you can see in the lower right-hand picture, the volunteers eat healthy, organic food, and they enjoy each other's company. We already got 6 volunteers who found their match by volunteering. So if you're looking for a husband or wife, that's also a matchmaking service. But anyways, this is what I showed you. We're building a museum. The video shows it on the outside, how it's going to be, and inside. I will end with this picture. This is obviously being born in Bethlehem is very special for us Palestinian Christians. There's Mother Mary and baby Jesus, and how they are depicted in an icon. But if you really want to know what they looked like physically, they would be like this Muslim woman and her son in Gaza in front of the ruins of their house. This is our website, and you can find out more about that and on PalestineNature.org. You can email me at info@PalestineNature.org. So if you sign the email list and you don't hear from me in a week because I couldn't read your email, then email me and say, put me on the email list. I send you information. And this is me being arrested a few times for nonviolent actions. Here the soldiers need me. By the way, these soldiers trained the American police to do this and to be racist. And Black Lives Matter is related to this. So
tell them that your rib is being broken as that picture is being taken.
Yeah. Okay. So anyways, I'll stop here and happy to take it. One last